Good evening, dear listener. I'm glad you're here. Let this be a quiet moment just for you, nothing to solve, nothing to hurry. If it feels right, allow your shoulders to soften, your jaw to unclench, and your breath to slow down into an easy rhythm. Tonight's story is gentle and safe. A small walk through a foggy autumn dawn where the world appears little by little, as if it's remembering how to be seen. You don't have to picture every detail perfectly. Simply let the words drift over you like warm air. And if your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. You can always return to the sound of footsteps, to the hush of mist, to the calm that waits between one breath and the next. The morning is still young, so young that the sky hasn't decided on a single color yet. It carries a pale, diluted blue above the meadow, and nearer the horizon, it blurs into something like pearl and milk. Dawn is arriving quietly, not with a sudden announcement, but with a slow, patient brightening, as if someone is turning up a dimmer switch by a careful fraction. The air is cool enough to feel clean when it enters the lungs, and it leaves the mouth as a faint, fleeting cloud, warm breath meeting cold morning, then dissolving with no effort at all. A narrow path runs through the meadow like a soft line drawn by many gentle mornings. It isn't paved. It's not sharp-edged. It's simply pressed grass and earth, where countless feet have passed without forcing anything to change too much. The meadow itself is dressed for autumn greens muted into moss and sage, edges of blades tipped with amber, little fallen leaves scattered like quiet confetti that has already stopped celebrating and decided to rest. Fog lies over everything, not heavy and wet like a storm cloud fallen to the ground, but low and tender, as though it has been placed there on purpose. It moves in slow layers, drifting close to the grass, folding into small hollows, smoothing over the unevenness of the land. It looks like a blanket, soft, thick, and comforting, and it makes the world feel smaller in the best way, like a room with curtains drawn, like a safe space designed for quiet. The person walking the path is not in a rush. There is no race in their body, no urgent schedule pushing at their back. Their hands rest easily, sometimes tucked into pockets for warmth, sometimes relaxed at their sides. Their steps are measured, unhurried, heel, then sole, then toes, a gentle roll that barely disturbs the damp earth. Each footfall feels cushioned by the softness of the ground, as as if the meadow has learned how to hold weight kindly. They are out for a morning walk, nothing more, nothing less. Not to prove anything, not to escape anything. Just to be in the morning while it's still quiet enough to hear itself. Their mood is clear and calm, like clean water in a glass, like a window recently washed. Thoughts come and go, but none of them cling. There is an easy feeling of safety, as if the day has promised to be simple for a while. Cold kisses their cheeks immediately, the kind of cold that doesn't bite, only wakes. It touches the skin with a gentle sting that fades into freshness. The tip of the nose feels it first, then cheekbones, then the places where the air can reach beneath hair and scarf. The person draws in a slow breath and senses how the inside of the chest warms, even while the outer air stays cool. When they exhale, their breath blooms pale in the fog and then blends into it, warmth folding into softness, leaving nothing behind. Sound is different inside the mist. It doesn't travel far. It doesn't bounce sharply. It becomes rounded at the edges, softened as if wrapped in felt. Even the person's footsteps are quiet, more sensation than noise. Somewhere nearby, a droplet slides from a grass blade and lands on another leaf, making a tiny tap so delicate it feels like a secret. Another droplet falls, and then another, as if the meadow is gently counting itself awake. There is a rhythm to it. Tap, pause, tap. Not a pattern that needs to be understood, just a presence, like a small percussion instrument played by the world itself. The person tilts their head slightly as they walk, listening without trying to capture every sound. The mind does not chase the noise. The mind simply receives it, the way skin receives a breeze. Each little drop feels like a confirmation that the morning is real, that the meadow is here, that the path is trustworthy beneath their feet. To either side of the trail, the grass is jeweled with dew. In the dim light, it doesn't sparkle loudly. It glows softly, like tiny beads of glass that have decided to be shy. When the person's shoes brush the edge of the path, the blades bend and spring back. A few droplets cling to laces, making them darker. The wetness is cool through fabric, but the discomfort is small, easy to accept. The whole scene has that calm honesty of nature at dawn. Everything is slightly damp, slightly cold, and completely okay. Ahead, trees stand like a slow gathering of tall figures, their trunks rising from the fog as if the earth is dreaming them upward. In the mist, partially hidden, as though they are being drawn in pencil, and the artist is still working. Branches emerge faintly, then retreat again. Leaves, what remains of them, hang in clusters of copper and rust, muted by the fog until they look like embers seen through thin cloth. The person watches the trees without tension. There is no fear in the unknown shapes. The fog makes the world mysterious, yes, but it also makes it gentle. Whatever is hidden kindly, as if the morning is giving permission not to know everything right away. The person's eyes adjust, noticing how the fog has layers, how it thins slightly above the path and thickens in the meadow's low places. It is a soft architecture building a quiet corridor forward. As they walk, they notice their breath again, how it warms the air close to their lips, how it feels like a small lantern inside the body. Inhale, cool, crisp, clean. Exhale, warm, visible, then gone. The contrast is soothing. Their cheeks stay chilled, and that chill makes the warmth of breathing more noticeable, like holding a warm cup with cold fingers. The person allows the sensation to be what it is, without labeling it as unpleasant. It is simply the temperature of dawn, and dawn is doing what dawn does. The path curves slightly, not sharply, just enough to make the next stretch feel new. A thin line of darker earth marks where many feet have passed. Here and there, a fallen leaf lies on the path, stuck to the damp ground, as if it chose that spot to settle. The person steps around them without thinking, moving in a way that feels natural and kind. In the fog, the smallest choice becomes gentle. Left foot here, right foot there, and the world continues. A faint scent rises from the meadow, wet soil, crushed grass, the mineral smell of cold water, and something faintly sweet like decaying leaves turning back into earth. It isn't unpleasant. It's honest and grounding. The person breathes it in and feels, in the simplest way, connected to the season, to the land, to the slow turning that makes autumn autumn. There is comfort in knowing that the world has done this many times before, and it will do it again. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls, the sound muffled by fog, so it arrives like a soft note played behind a wall. Another call answers, lower and quieter. The person pauses for half a second, not stopping fully, just letting the moment expand. The birds sound awake, but not frantic. The meadow is waking too, but it isn't hurrying. It is as if everything agreed to be gentle this morning. The fog drifts across the path, in slow, sliding streams. Sometimes it thickens enough that the person's hands, held in front for a moment, seem slightly unreal, softened at the edges. Then the fog thins again, and the hands look ordinary. This shift is not alarming. It feels like breathing, like a slow inhale and exhale of the land itself. The person walks through it the way one might walk through a quiet room where curtains move in a draft, aware, calm, receptive. As the curve brings them closer to the trees, the air changes just a little. Under the canopy, even sparse as it is in autumn, the fog seems to settle differently. It is cooler here, and the dampness is a touch stronger. The sound of droplets becomes more frequent, not louder, just more present. Leaves above, still holding some dew, release it one by one. Each drop has a tiny journey gathering, swelling, letting go, then landing on a leaf, then another, then finally the ground. The person slows even more, matching the pace of the droplets. Their footsteps become quieter, as if the body instinctively respects the delicate sounds. Their attention moves outward and inward at once. Outward to the fog and trees, inward to breath and cheeks, outward again to the path. This gentle shifting feels like rocking, like being lulled by the world. In places, the fog turns the distance into a soft wall, but it's not a barrier. It's a curtain, inviting the idea that beyond it, there will be more meadow, more path, more dawn. The person doesn't need to see the entire route. They only need the next few steps. This is enough. The ground is steady. The air is safe. The trees are quiet companions, standing watch witut demanding anything. They notice how the cold on their cheeks is different now, less of a surprise, more of a steady presence. The skin has adjusted. The body has accepted the temperature. With acceptance comes comfort, the way one settles into a cool bed and soon finds it perfectly agreeable. Warm breath continues to rise and vanish. The person becomes aware of the gentle work of their lungs, the smooth movement of the ribcage. Everything in the body knows how to do what it is doing, and it does it without asking for permission. The path runs between two rows of trees that feel older than the meadow itself, their trunks thick and textured. In the fog, bark looks like dark fabric, and lichen appears like faint, pale stitching. Some branches reach out over the path, not in a threatening way, but like arms resting, relaxed. A leaf detaches in slow motion, almost weightless, and drifts down. and feels an unexpected softness in the chest, a small tenderness for how quietly things can end and begin. Leaves fall, yes, but they don't disappear. They return to the soil. They become part of the smell of the meadow, part of the damp earth that feeds the grass. The person thinks about this only briefly, not as a heavy idea, just as a calm truth. The world cycles, and the cycles are gentle when you don't fight them. As they keep walking, the fog begins to glow. Dawn is strengthening behind it, turning the mist into a luminous veil. Instead of hiding the world, the fog now seems to reveal it in a different way, by softening every edge, by making everything look like it belongs together. Trees, grass, path, sky. All of it melts into one calm scene, like watercolors spreading on wet paper. The person feels, for a moment, as if they are walking inside a painting that was made to be restful. Their hearing adjusts further to the muffled world. There are no harsh noises. Even the distant suggestion of a road, if it exists at all, is swallowed by the mist. What remains are near sounds, dewdrops, a faint rustle of grass when a breeze passes, the quiet creak of a branch shifting slightly. The person notices the sound of their own clothing, a soft whisper with each step. It's a private sound, intimate and reassuring, like a familiar blanket moving as you settle. The breeze arrives gently, brushing the meadow as if testing whether it is ready to wake fully. It cools the person's cheeks again, drawing a tiny shiver along the skin. Instinctively, they pull their scarf a little higher or tuck their chin into the collar. The gesture is small and caring, like the body giving itself comfort without needing to be told. Their breath warms the fabric near their mouth, and for a few moments the air they inhale feels slightly less cold, filtered and softened. The fog responds to the breeze by shifting in slow waves. It parts in some places and thickens in others, making the trees appear and disappear. A trunk becomes clear dark and solid, then fades, as if it is stepping back. Branches sharpen for a moment, then blur. It is easy to imagine the trees as patient beings, comfortable with being seen and unseen, knowing there is no need to insist on clarity. The person, too, feels content not to demand a crisp world. Softness is enough. They reach a spot where the path widens slightly, a natural clearing where the grass has been pressed down by time and feet. Here the meadow opens up, and the fog stretches like a pale lake across it. The person pauses fully this time and stands still. Stillness feels different from slow walking. It is like placing a cup down after holding it. The muscles release. The shoulders drop a fraction. The world, when met with stillness, seems to lean closer. In the silence, the taps of droplets become more noticeable. A drop lands on a leaf near the person's shoe. Tap. Another strikes a dry twig. Tick. A third falls into a small puddle hidden in the grass. Plip. Each sound is tiny, but together they form a calm, irregular lullaby. The person listens and allows their breath to slow naturally. Guided by these sounds, the way one might be guided by a metronome that doesn't insist on perfection. They look out over the foggy meadow and notice something subtle. The light is changing. It is not brighter in a glaring way. It is brighter in a gentler way, as if a candle has been lit behind the mist. The farthest parts of the meadow begin to separate into layers, the nearest grass slightly darker, the middle distance a softer gray-green, the far distance almost white. The world is revealing itself the way a photograph develops in a tray, slowly, patiently. There is a soft, almost mystical feeling in this, safe and inviting. It's as if the morning is letting the person witness the act of appearing. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but with care. Trees at the meadow's edge are more distinct now, their crowns faintly outlined against the lightening sky. The person watches without needing to interpret. They simply let the unfolding be beautiful. When they resume walking, their steps feel even lighter, as if the pause has refreshed them. The cold on their cheeks now feels like a friendly companion. It keeps them present. It keeps them awake in a gentle way. Their breath remains warm, and each exhale becomes a small, visible reassurance. I am here. I am moving. I am safe. The path continues through the meadow, and the fog continues to behave like a blanket that has been pulled up to the horizon. It hugs the ground, smoothing every clump of grass into a single soft surface. Occasionally, a taller plant, a stalk with seed heads, rises above it like a mast above the sea. The person passes one and sees tiny beads of dew clinging to it, lined up like delicate pearls. The plant sways slightly, and the dew trembles but does not fall. The person's attention rests on small details, the way a hand might rest on a warm surface. They notice how the damp air feels on the lips, how it cools the skin there. They notice how their fingers feel inside their pockets, warmth gathered and held. They notice the gentle difference between stepping on firmer earth and stepping on softer grass. Each sensation is simple, and that simplicity feels like a kind of kindness. In the fog, distance is not demanding. There is no long view calling for decisions. There is only the path and the next gentle curve. The person finds comfort in this limited horizon. It feels like being allowed to live in the present without effort. If a thought about later appears, about chores, messages, plans, it floats up and then drifts away, swallowed by the mist as easily as breath. The trees ahead form another loose line, and as the person approaches, the trunks look like dark strokes of ink on a pale page. The fog makes the space between them luminous. The person can see only a few yards into the grove. Beyond that, everything becomes white-gray softness. It might feel eerie in another context, but here it feels protective. The fog is not hiding danger. It is simply holding the world gently, offering privacy to the morning. A few leaves crunch softly underfoot, their sound muted by dampness. The crunch is more a sensation than a noise, a gentle crumble that reminds the person of how autumn changes textures. They step carefully, not because they must, but because they want to keep the quiet intact. There is a sense of reverence, calm and natural, not forced. The person is not a visitor intruding. They are part of the scene, another quiet presence moving through it. Somewhere close, a tiny stream runs through a shallow dip in the land. It is mostly hidden by grass and fog, but the person hears it, barely a soft, continuous whisper. The sound of water moving over stones. They angle toward it, drawn by the steadiness of the sound. As they approach, the air feels a touch colder, as if the stream carries its own coolness. The person stands near it and listens, letting the whisper fill the spaces between the droplet taps. The stream is not dramatic. It does not rush. It moves with the same unhurried pace as the morning walk. When the person bends slightly, they can see a small section of water, dark and glossy, reflecting fog and sky. A fallen leaf rests at the edge, half in, half out, as if undecided. The person watches the surface for a moment, noticing tiny ripples from unseen drops. Each ripple expands and disappears, making room for the next. They straighten and continue along the path, which runs parallel to the stream for a short while. The presence of water adds to the hush. sound seems to sink into the ground. The person's breathing feels steady, even. Inhale, cool, crisp. Exhale, warm, visible. Their cheeks remain cold, but now the cold feels like clarity, like the clean edge of a fresh morning. Their body feels awake without stress, calm without sleepiness, though the calm has a drowsy softness at its center, the kind that makes it easy to let go. The fog begins to thin in subtle patches. It doesn't vanish, it loosens. The meadow gains detail. The grass shows more individual blades. The path's pressed earth looks slightly darker where it is wet. The trees' leaves gain hints of color, gold that isn't loud, rust that isn't harsh, brown that feels velvety. The person notices these changes and feels a quiet gratitude, not sharp or emotional, just steady. Thank you, morning, for revealing yourself. They pass a small cluster of shrubs whose branches hold tiny droplets like hanging ornaments. When the person's sleeve brushes them, one or two droplets fall, landing on fabric with a cool touch. The sensation is brief and startling only in its freshness. The person smiles a little, not broadly, just a small softening at the corners of the mouth. Even tiny surprises feel gentle in this place. The path rises slightly onto a low ridge. From here, the person can see more of the meadow, though the fog still keeps the far edges soft. The dawn light is now strong enough to create faint shadows, blurred, delicate shadows that look like smudges rather than lines. The person watches how their own shadow appears as a pale shape on the ground, then fades when the fog shifts. It is a reminder that they too are part of the play of light and mist, appearing and disappearing in gentle degrees. A calm, almost mystical thought drifts in. What if the fog is not only weather, but a kind of presence, an old, kind presence that visits the meadow at dawn to help everything wake slowly? The person doesn't need to believe this literally. It's simply a comforting idea, like imagining a guardian in a children's story. The fog as a caretaker, laying its soft blanket over the grass, muting harsh sounds, keeping the morning tender until the day is ready. The person continues walking, and the idea stays with them, making the world feel even safer. Each step becomes a quiet agreement. I will go slowly. I will notice. I will not demand. The meadow seems to respond, offering more small sounds, the tap of dew, the faint rustle of a leaf turning, the distant call of a bird that now sounds slightly clearer as the fog thins. As the sun inches closer to the horizon, the fog begins to glow more strongly from one side. The light is still soft, filtered through moisture, but it has direction now. It makes the mist look like pale gold milk poured into the air. The person turns their face slightly toward it and feels a touch of warmth on one cheek, while the other cheek remains cool. The contrast is soothing, like warm and cool hands gently holding the face. Their breath is still visible, but less so than before. It appears, then disappears faster, as if the air is warming just enough to accept it. The person notices the change and feels a quiet satisfaction, the way one feels when a room is slowly warming up. The body relaxes a little more. The shoulders settle. The hands loosen in pockets. The walk continues with the same calm pace, but the world feels a shade more awake. Along the path, the person sees footprints from earlier, perhaps from yesterday, perhaps from another early riser. The prints are softened by dew and time, edges blurred. They are not intrusive, just a gentle sign that others have walked here too, that the meadow is shared. The person feels a simple connection to unknown walkers, strangers linked by love of quiet mornings, by the desire to begin the day in softness. The trees on the right side of the path grow denser for a moment, creating a darker patch where the fog looks thicker. The person enters it, and the world becomes hushed again, like stepping into a dim room after being outside. The air smells more strongly of bark and wet leaves here. Droplets fall more frequently. The sound is like tiny beads hitting cloth. The person's cheeks cool again in this shaded space, and their breath feels warmer by contrast, like a small hearth within. They notice the sensation of warmth gathering in their chest with each inhale, and the steady release with each exhale. The breath becomes a gentle anchor. When the mind drifts toward a memory, toward a plan, the person returns to breath. Inhale, cool. Exhale, warm. Each cycle feels like a soft wave. The person doesn't force it. They simply allow it to be steady. In the deeper fog, the trees seem to dissolve more dramatically. A trunk appears close, clear and textured. Then beyond it, there is only white gray. The person sees a branch fade into nothing, like an unfinished line. It is beautiful in a quiet way. It makes the grove feel like a place between worlds, not in a frightening sense, but in a peaceful sense, like the boundary between sleep and waking, where images are soft and meanings are gentle. The person walks through this dissolving forest with a calm heart. Their steps are careful but not tense. They trust the path. The trail is still there beneath their feet, and it guides them. The fog may hide the distance, but it does not hide the ground. It does not change the fact that each step lands safely. The person's body knows how to walk. The earth knows how to hold. Then, gradually, the trees thin again, and the person emerges into a brighter patch of meadow. The fog here is lighter, and the sky is now clearly a pale blue with hints of apricot near the horizon. The sun is not visible yet, but its presence is felt like warmth behind a curtain. The meadow looks more real, more defined, but it has not lost its softness. The fog still blankets the grass, still rounds every edge. The person's cheeks feel less cold now. The air remains crisp, but it no longer surprises. Their breath is still warm, still visible in smaller puffs. They take a deeper inhale and notice how the cool air tastes like clean water, like metal in a pleasant way, like freshness itself. They exhale slowly, and the breath drifts forward and vanishes. It is a simple magic, warmth turning into mist, then becoming part of the morning. They pass a small stone near the path, darkened by moisture. A few leaves have gathered around it, and the fog curls around its edges. The person steps beside it and feels a quiet affection for this ordinary object. In the fog, everything feels slightly enchanted, not because it has changed, but because attention has changed. When you look gently, the world responds with gentleness. Another breeze moves across the meadow, slightly stronger than before. The fog flows with it, sliding like a slow tide. The person watches a patch of grass appear more clearly as the fog thins there, then soften again as a new ribbon of mist drifts in. The movement is hypnotic. It feels like watching a calm breath in the air, the land inhaling and exhaling fog. The person continues along the path until they reach a familiar point, a place where the trail bends near an old tree that stands slightly apart from the others. In the fog, the tree has the presence of a quiet landmark, a friend waiting in the mist. Its trunk is wide, and its branches stretch outward like arms open in a restful posture. The person approaches and places a hand on the bark for a moment, feeling its cool roughness, the steadiness of it. bark is damp and textured, ridged in patterns that feel ancient and patient. The coolness seeps into the palm, and the person's hand feels both chilled and comforted. There is a sense of grounding. This tree has stood through many autumns, many dawns, many foggy mornings. It has watched the meadow wake countless times. The person stands with it for a breath or two, feeling small, but not insignificant, just part of something calm and ongoing. When they step away, the hand that touched the bark feels a little colder than the other. The person rubs their palms together slowly, creating a soft warmth through friction. The sound is quiet. The warmth builds gently. They bring their hands near their face for a moment and feel the warmth rise to their cheeks, mixing with the cool air. Then their hands return to pockets or rest at their sides, relaxed. The path now leads toward a slight dip where the meadow gathers fog more thickly. The person walks down into it, and the world becomes softer again. The fog here is like milk poured into a bowl, dense but still luminous. It wraps around the person's legs, and the lower half of the body seems to fade a little at the edges. The person looks down and sees their shoes, the grass, and then, only a few feet away, the world dissolves. This might feel disorienting, but it doesn't. It feels like being held. The fog is not pressing, it is cushioning. The person's senses become more focused on the near. The sound of dew tapping, the feel of air on cheeks, the warmth of breath. In this softened space, the body relaxes further, as if it understands there is nothing to watch for. No sudden movement, no threat, only the gentle act of walking through morning. The person imagines briefly that each droplet sound is a tiny bell, each tap a note in a song meant to soothe the nervous system. Tap, tick, plip. The fog becomes the instrument's resonance, making every note softer, rounder, kinder. The person's heart rate feels steady. Their thoughts are quieter. Even their gaze becomes softer, not trying to pierce the fog, only to accept it. As they continue, dawn's light grows stronger, and within the fog, a subtle brightness begins to spread. The mist seems to shine from within, as if it carries light in its fibers. The person watches a tree appear ahead, first as a faint vertical line, then as a shape with branches, then as a clear trunk with a few leaves. It is like watching a memory become vivid. The person feels a gentle wonder at this slow reveal. Their cheeks, once sharply cold, now feel comfortably cool. still warm in the mouth and throat. They exhale and feel that warmth travel outward. The fog accepts it without fuss. Everything accepts everything here. Nothing resists. The person finds that thought soothing, a place where the morning accepts you, where you do not need to be anything but present. A faint line of sunlight finally touches the meadow more directly. A thin band of gold that slips under the fog like a gentle hand. It doesn't burn through. It doesn't tear the mist away. It simply colors it. The fog turns honeyed in places, pale gold against pale gray. The grass beneath takes on a warmer tone. The person watches this change and feels as if the world is smiling, not in a loud way, but in a quiet, private way. They keep walking, and the path begins to lead back toward the edge of the meadow, toward where the trees are thinner, and the land opens into gentle fields beyond. The fog is still present, but it is now more like lace than blanket, still soft, still protective, but less dense. The trees no longer dissolve completely. They fade gently at their far edges, as if the morning is saying, "You can see more now, you are ready." The person hears more sounds as the fog loosens. A bird call is clearer. The stream's whisper returns faintly. Somewhere, a branch shifts with a soft creak. Still, everything remains muted, with no sharpness. The world is waking without noise, like someone careful not to disturb a sleeping house. The person feels their body warmed from walking, a subtle heat in thighs and calves, a gentle circulation in hands. The cold on cheeks remains, but it is now a pleasant contrast, like cool air against warm skin after moving. They inhale and feel the coolness enter, and it feels like a cleansing. They exhale and feel warmth leave, and it feels like a release. The breath is a quiet exchange with the morning. You give me freshness, I give you warmth. As they reach another bend, the meadow opens into a view of scattered trees and low shrubs. The fog drifts between them, and the light makes each ribbon of mist look like a slow-moving spirit of air, peaceful, harmless, simply doing its work. The person's mind, in this calm setting, feels spacious. There is room in it. There is no crowding, no pressure. Thoughts that come are like leaves drifting down. They land softly, then become part of the ground. They notice a small spider web strung between two stalks of grass near the path, catching droplets. The web is delicate, almost invisible until it catches the light. droplets cling to it like tiny crystals. The person leans slightly to look, careful not to disturb. For a moment, the web feels like a miniature constellation, a map of dew. Then they straighten and continue, carrying the image with them like a soft charm. The sky continues to brighten, and the fog continues to thin, but it does not leave abruptly. It retreats with dignity, slowly, giving the meadow time to adjust. The person appreciates this gentleness. There is no sudden unveiling, no harsh transition. The world remains kind. The path remains easy. The person's steps remain slow and steady, as if they have learned something from the fog. That softness can be strong. They begin to sense the end of their walk approaching, not because of a clock, but because of a feeling of completion. The morning has been received. The meadow has been visited. The fog has been witnessed. The person does not feel regret. They feel full in a quiet way, like having drunk a glass of water after being thirsty without knowing it. Their cheeks are cool, their breath is warm, and their heart is calm. As they approach the place where the path meets a wider track, still quiet, still damp, the fog is now a gentle veil in the distance. Trees stand more clearly. The meadow shows its colors more honestly. Muted green, soft brown, copper leaves, pale yellow grasses. The air is still fresh, and the dew still taps now and then. But the rhythm is slowing as droplets finish their falling. The meadow is transitioning from night's last hush into day's first calm. The person pauses one final time and turns back to look at the path they walked. It disappears into the softest remaining fog, a pale ribbon dissolving into light. The sight is comforting rather than sad. It suggests that the quiet is always there, somewhere waiting, even when the day becomes busy, even when sounds become sharper. There is a memory of this misty dawn that can be returned to, like closing your eyes and finding the sensation of cool air on cheeks, warm breath in your throat, and the soft tap of dew on grass. They take one more slow inhale, feeling the cool air fill them gently, then a long exhale, letting warmth drift out. The body feels settled. The mind feels clean. The morning feels safe. And as the light continues to grow, still soft, still kind, the person turns forward again and walks on at the same calm pace, carrying the meadow's quiet with them like a pocket of fog folded carefully into the heart. a soft